My name is Alicia Harrell, and this is my diversity plan for instructional leadership 552. And I'm going to be looking at my diversity plan here at Gaston City High School. The first thing we're going to talk about is the definition of diversity. Diversity, according to Webster's dictionary, is the condition of having or being composed of differing elements, variety, especially the inclusion of different types of people, such as people in different races, cultures, and a group of organization programs intended to promote diversity in schools. Now, we can look at the ACT scores for the last 3 years. I don't have 18 and 19 because I asked for this data and the data wasn't available. So I did go back to the last data that they had. And as you look at the data, what surprises me is with the American Indian in 2016-17, there was a hike. But what happened is, as I looked at the data, there was only one person that actually took the ACT during this time frame. And so that's why the data was really, really high here. But when we look at this year, when we look at 15-16 and then 17-18, it goes back down to 14%. This is composite scores, so you're looking at English, math, science, the writing, all of that combined when we look at the ACT scores. And if you notice, the African American ACT scores have been constant. And when we look at the Hispanic, and they too have been sort of constant, but there is a lot of work that needs to be done. And when you look at the white, when we look at the white students in our school, they're pretty consistent at least 20. Their composite score is at least at 20. So we've got a lot of work that we have to do to work on that. Now, let's look at the targeted demographics. We're going to be looking at African Americans, and we're going to be looking at Latinos and Hispanics. So let's look at the goals and strategies. I chose 5 different goals and strategies to counteract some of the diversity. Some of the problems I think we have here at Gaston City that can help with diversity. The first one is ensure a welcoming, safe, inclusive, and equitable school community. Goal 2 is to improve the diversity at Gaston City Schools. 3 is to empower all students to achieve academic excellence. 4 is to close the achievement gap. And 5 is to consider the commitment to diversity by creating a culture of accountability. So the first one we're going to look at the first goal being a welcoming environment, a safe environment, an inclusive environment. And we want to make sure everybody is being equitable within our school community. So the first thing we want to do is provide the EL students with some type of welcoming package, some type of survival kit. We want to ensure that the implementation of PBIS is being used. What is PBIS? It's the positive behavior intervention support. I use that a lot in my classroom for my children to behave. So when we look at, we want to make sure everybody is treated equally, and we just can't write kids up when they mess up on the very first time. So with PBIS, it holds the kids accountable as well as the educator. We need to look at and review the suspension plan. When we look at this data, who's getting suspended more than anybody? And if we looked at the data, we will see that the students that are being suspended more often than not are the African American students, the Latino students. And we want to make sure that there is some fair policies being implemented to make sure that it's fair. Johnny can't get away with something and Susie can. We've got to make sure there are fair and consistent policies. So therefore we want to look at the suspension policies and look at the disciplinary policies. Make sure every student has an equal opportunity. If you're gonna suspend one, you must suspend the other one. If you're gonna let one pass, we've got to let the other one pass. So we've got to look at that with our diversity plan. And the last thing that we want to do in this goal is we really want to collaborate with the SROs. We want to make sure that they're doing their jobs, that they're securing our schools as well as making sure that our students are safe. We want to make sure our campus is secure. And we have a humongous campus here at Gaston City. Goal 2, improve the diversity at Gaston City. How do we improve the diversity at Gaston City? We first need to look at our teachers. And when we look at the diversity of our teachers, look at how many kids are here, the African American students here, compared to that of whites and Hispanics. Can we go places and can we meet and can we actually recruit some diverse teachers, some male teachers? Because there are a whole lot more female teachers here than there are male teachers. We don't have a lot of teachers here that actually speak Spanish or any foreign language, very few. I went to a board meeting on last night and the superintendent was really excited because he actually hired a bilingual teacher here at the city, here at Gaston City. Well, another one, but the more the merrier. We need these people to help us communicate better with the EL kids. We got to contact Gaston State, Jacksonville State. We can contact even University of Alabama, Alabama A&M. They have programs that are here locally where we can actually go out and try to recruit some teachers, some administrators, recruit different people that have gone through and that are qualified to teach our kids. But we're looking for diversity. Build relationships with people that are underrepresented in our school. If there are more women than there are men, we need to talk to them and see what's going on. If African American teachers are underrepresented in our school, we need to talk and build relationships. And not just with teachers, I'm going to say even with students. We've got to find out what can we do to close this gap. What can we do to improve diversity? It says facilitate and improve, if needed, faculty orientation. Provide mentoring programs for new faculty, and especially if the faculty that we're recruiting are from a diverse background. They need that orientation. They need to know what's expected and they need to know what they're coming into. And then look at and survey, there we go again with the underrepresented groups to obtain information on decisions. People need to be at the table. We have a leadership team. There needs to be male, female, there need to be Hispanics, there need to be African Americans, there need to be any nationality, any ethnic group. Let's represent everybody. Everybody needs a seat at the table. And the last thing, we need to provide professional development for our teachers. How can we communicate? How can we better help our EL kids? Goal 3 is to empower all students to achieve academic excellence. We need to create a Hispanic, a Latino, and an African American support group. We need to come up with some type of group to help develop their leadership skills. We need to create all these programs for these students. We need to create a program for the LGBTQ students. And so often we miss those kids and they're lost in the system. And I think kids need to know that it's okay to be who they are. And so if we can create some support groups to help the diverse kids, and I would say the minority kids in our school, we need to do that. A peer mentoring program. Peer-to-peer. Hey, I'm new here. I need to learn the ropes. Let me partner you with another student that's been here and that knows the ropes, and it can help you around. We're going to talk about support and tutoring programs. We need to support tutoring programs. There is a tutoring program going on this summer with it's called the EL Camp. And with the EL Camp, it's geared more toward high school newcomers. We have a few middle schools, but we really need to make sure that elementary kids as well as middle school kids are being supported and they have the necessary material that they need so they can be successful. And then the last bullet point, it says build relationships. We can't do anything as educators if we don't build relationships with our students. Meet them where they are. And it says, building relationships, they are the key motivators for learning for students from generational poverty. Guys, when kids find out you were not born with a silver spoon in your mouth, Kids will acclimate, they will gravitate towards you. And when you tell your story and not be ashamed of it, I tell kids all the time, I'm from the projects. And me being in this school where it's predominantly black, oh, for real? And I get that, and kids really feel more comfortable with me because I've been there, done that. I can associate, I understand what these kids are going through. So as we look, we've got to make sure we build relationships. The fourth goal, guys, is we have to learn to find a way to close the achievement gap for everybody. And what we offer here, we have this 21st century program, and it's an after-school program, but they also have one in the summertime as well. And with this program, it gives students an opportunity to socialize with peers and adults, and it also allows kids an opportunity to get help with homework or any subjects that they may be lacking in. And there also is a PBL project, which is a project-based learning project that goes along with the 21st century. Kids learn the hidden rules of school. They need to know there are some hidden rules when it pertains to school. Some do's and don'ts and some unwritten rules, and there are some things you can't do and you just can't get away with it. And we've got to make sure, guys, and this is a big one, and this is something that we really and truly need to work on here at Gaston City, is we need to increase the percentage of non-white EL kids, low-income kids, that are in our honors programs. We don't have a lot of Hispanics. Well, we need to increase the Hispanics, we need to increase the children that are in poverty, and we need to increase the non-white kids and include them in our classes, in our honors classes. Remediation for struggling students in math and reading, whether remediation is during school, and so often, guys, we can't have remediation before school and after school because some kids can't get here. They ride the bus to school, they ride the bus from school. So meet them where they are. And it says, analyze the resources of your students and make interventions based on the resources that the students have access to. It says interventions don't work if they're based on resources that are not available. So you can't say we're gonna have tutoring after school and the kids have to get on the bus and go home and they have no way to stay after school. The next one we're gonna talk about is, the last one is school accountability. We can implement all of these. We can address all of these, all of the goals and strategies in a diversity plan, but without accountability, it serves no purpose. We've got to have a check and balance system. We've got to make sure somebody is putting these plans into action, and we also have to make sure that whoever is supposed to be implementing these plans are implementing the plans properly. So we've got to have some type of accountability, and we want to invite key communicators to meet with the superintendent and to meet with the Board of Education to make sure that these improvement plans are fair. Because we can have all these plans, but if they're not fair, all of our kids, regardless of socioeconomic status, regardless of race, regardless of gender, they have to be treated with respect. They have to be treated with fairness. Now, I want to switch gears just a little bit because I want us to look just briefly at the mental model. And as we look at the mental model, and I had to learn this, when we look at the mental model, we look at the poverty level, we look at the middle income, and we look at the wealthy model. People's mindset is different based on the level that you're in. For instance, when we look at our kids now, a lot of our kids are in that poverty level. So kids are not interested in learning who the first president of the United States was, when they don't know where the next meal is coming from, when they're in a home and there is no lights, no water, no gas. I don't even know how I'm gonna get to school. They can care less about the quadratic formula, the Pythagorean theory. We've got to make sure that we meet these kids where they are and know that the mentality is totally different when it comes to learning, when it comes to these mental models. Now let's look at the middle income. And look, guys, this transportation, debt, relationships, jobs, chemical dependency, housing, food. what these kids in poverty are wanting, totally different than what the middle class are wanting. Middle class, their mentality is a little different. Oh, I don't want to think about retirement. Oh, let our kids have to think about this. Where are we going on vacation? Oh, where are we shopping? Where are we going out to eat when we get out of school? So the mentality is totally different. And when we look at our kids that are coming into our classrooms, meet them where they are. You can look at some kids and see what they have and what they don't have. So often you can't require a lot because you have to know where they're coming from. And then the last one is the wealthy model. Now, I don't see many wealthy kids in here, but look at the model. They're totally different. They're interested in clubs. They're interested in, I'm playing golf today. I want to go to the country club. And they're into keeping up with the Kardashians. They're trying to keep up with keeping up. And so as we look at this, there is a huge divide between the rich and the poor. And you look at the models, and boy, are they different because of the mentalities. And some quick facts. American students are more racially and ethnically diverse than ever, while teachers remain overwhelmingly white. In the fall of 2015, the share of non-white students in the U.S. public elementary and secondary schools hit a record of 51%, and that's up from 30% of 86. It says growth has been especially fast amongst the Hispanic students. And guys, they've increased from 10% to 26% in about almost 20 years. African American students are 2.4 times more likely to be identified as MMR, which is mildly mentally retarded. We've got to work on that. And then it says 1.5 times more likely to be identified as SED, which is socially, is emotional disturbance. We've got to look at that. Why are kids misbehaving? And why is it that African American students are being targeted and labeled? Why are they more, 1.5 times more likely to be identified as somebody with SED? Disproportion of minority students in special ed has been consistent for almost 4 years. And if the achievement gap could be reduced, the wealth of blacks and Hispanics would not only rise, but the social and economic difference would enforce the country's racial pressure that will also be improved. Guys, if we can improve the achievement gap in African Americans and in Hispanics, we can decrease the economic divide in the different races. And the last one, guys, it says blacks and Hispanic students are much less likely than whites to graduate from high school, to acquire a college or an advanced degree, or to earn a middle-class living. That's something we can do something about. Let's put these diversity plans in place so our black kids, our brown kids can excel and reach the heights that they were meant to reach. And these are my sources. This is where I got all of my information, and I thank you so very much for your time.